My parents stole my entire college fund and bought themselves a brand new car. Like my future was some sale item they just had asterisk to snatch up. They thought I'd just get over it, that family loyalty meant me paying the price for their little joyride, but they were in for a nasty surprise, because what I did next, let's just say, they never saw it coming. All right, so my name's Alex. I'm 18, and until recently life was looking up. I had everything lined up for college, my whole future basically mapped out. I'd saved for years, taking on every part-time gig I could find, skipping out on things like hanging with friends, or buying stuff I wanted. All that sacrifice was going to get me a real future, right? But then, one random Tuesday, I was checking my bank account to make sure everything was in place for tuition payments. And that's when I noticed the balance was way, way lower than it should have been. Like, what the heck is going on lower? My heart sank. I felt that drop, when you realize something major is wrong, but you're still hoping you're wrong. I refreshed the page a few times, like an idiot, thinking it was some glitch. But no, it was real. My college fund, all those years of saving, gone. Panic mode kicked in. I dove into every bank statement, scanned each transaction like a detective. After hours of scrolling, there it was. Some big charges linked to a car dealership? Hold up, why would my college money be paying for a car? That's when my brain started piecing things together. But even then, I was like, nah, no way. They wouldn't. Later that day, I'm chilling in my room, still trying to make sense of it all, when I overhear my mom on the phone with her sister. She's talking about the new car my dad got her, how it's the best gift he's ever given. My stomach twisted. Suddenly, everything made sense in the worst way possible. My parents, the people who told me to work hard and save up, had used my college fund to buy a car for my mom. Just like that, my future, my hard work, all of it had been traded in for some shiny new wheels. I was fuming. Like, this wasn't just anger, this was betrayal. Sunday rolls around, and it's family dinner, one of those mandatory bonding sessions my parents insist on, where we sit around the table and pretend everything's normal. But this time, I'm on a mission. Well, I wasn't going to blow up, not yet. I just needed to confirm my suspicions. So, while they're busy serving food, I casually throw out, "Hey, Mom, have you noticed any weird charges in my account? Like maybe someone hacked it or something?" Mom freezes for a split second, then does this overly casual shrug. "Oh, honey, I'm sure it's nothing. Probably just one of those bank errors." Right, a bank error. Like, my college fund just happened to vanish overnight due to a glitch. Sure, Mom. Then, out of nowhere, Dad chimes in with this smirk on his face, glancing out the window at his precious new ride. He says, "Well, Alex, maybe those funds went to something a bit more useful, wouldn't you say?" And he actually has the nerve to wink. I'm sitting there, gripping my fork so hard, I'm surprised it doesn't bend. I can feel my face getting hot, but I force myself to stay cool. "Oh, really?" I say, keeping my voice level. "And what exactly is more useful than my entire college fund?" He looks at me, barely containing a grin, and says, "Let's just say it's going to good use. You're young. There'll be other chances to save up." Like it's no big deal. Like I didn't spend years working my butt off for that money. The worst part, Mom's just nodding along like this is all completely reasonable. My parents, who I thought would back me no matter what, are treating my future like their personal piggy bank. I'm practically seeing red at this point, but I know that flipping out won't get me anywhere. So I bite my tongue and play it cool. Let them think I'm just a clueless kid who doesn't get it. But inside, I'm planning my next move. If they think this is over, they've got another thing coming. I had enough. After a week of pretending everything was fine, I finally decided to confront them. I couldn't keep bottling it up. This wasn't just some little mix-up or bank error. It was my entire future, casually swapped out for leather seats and shiny rims. So, one evening, I walk into the living room where they're both chilling. I take a deep breath and say, "All right, we need to talk. About my college fund. Why did you take it?" They look up, completely unfazed. My mom just gives me this patient smile, like she's explaining something super obvious to a little kid. "Alex, sweetheart, you're young. You have plenty of time to save up again," she says with this almost sickening sweetness. "And you know we've been working so hard all our lives," Dad cuts in, like I didn't already know. "We deserve something nice for a change, don't you think?" He says it as if I should just nod along, like this was a fair trade. But that's my money. I've been saving it since I was 14. I worked for every cent. My voice was shaking with anger, but I kept my ground, looking them straight in the eyes. They didn't even flinch. Dad just chuckles, actually laughs. "Alex, it's our money too. We're your parents, and we know what's best. Besides, you'll thank us one day." That was it. Something in me just broke. In that moment, I realized that to them, I was just a walking wallet, someone they could drain whenever it suited them. Not a son, not a kid with dreams, just a convenient piggy bank. And that's when I made up my mind. If they could treat me like a bank, I could start treating them like business. From that day on, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't just going to sit back and let this slide. They'd taught me how to fend for myself, and now it was their turn to see what I'd learned. My goal was crystal clear. I was getting my money back, no matter what it took. First step, evidence. I had this old camera from when I was younger, one I'd used for school projects and dumb little videos. It wasn't high-tech, but it'd get the job done. So I set it up in the living room, hidden enough that they'd never notice. Every time they started talking about their new car or hinted at my savings, that camera was capturing it all. I knew these recordings might not change anything right away, but at least I'd have proof. Proof of what they'd done, of how they'd completely disregarded my future for their own gain. It felt empowering, like finally I was doing something to protect myself instead of just taking whatever they threw at me. And then it hit me. If this whole college thing did go up in smoke because of them, then I wasn't stopping at just proof. They were going to face real consequences, no matter what. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about showing them I wasn't some easy target. It felt brutal, yeah, but they'd taught me well. If they wanted to play hardball, they'd get it. A few days later, I finally had what I needed. The camera had done its job, capturing everything, every smug comment, every twisted justification. I played the recordings back in my room, headphones on, just in case. And man, hearing it all laid out was like a punch in the gut. There they were, sitting in the living room, casually chatting about their amazing new car. My mom's voice came through first, bright and cheerful. "Well, we worked so hard for this. We deserve it." And then my dad, with this satisfied tone, says, "Besides, he'll get over it. Kids these days don't understand sacrifice." They were talking about me as if I was some clueless kid with no say in the matter, like my entire future was just a minor inconvenience for their joyride. I listened to them laugh, making light of my reaction from the family dinner. My dad was even bragging about how I'd finally learned what family responsibility looks like. The sheer arrogance in their voices made my blood boil. Each time I replayed it, the anger just kept building. This wasn't just them taking my money. It was the fact they didn't even care. They thought I'd just shrug it off. But hearing them talk like that, so confident that I was powerless, yeah, that wasn't going to happen. I knew I had to make a move, but the question was, when and how? Timing would be everything. They wanted to act like my future was some casual luxury they could cash in for themselves. Fine. But they were about to see exactly what happens when you push someone too far. After days of simmering frustration, I decided to take a serious step. So I went to see a lawyer, someone who could tell me if my parents actually had the right to take my money. Sitting in that office, hearing phrases like financial misconduct and unauthorized use of funds, I realized just how deep they dug this hole. It wasn't just borrowing a few bucks from a piggy bank. It was a whole legal issue. If they'd used my money without my consent, they'd crossed a line that could lead to serious consequences. By the time our next family dinner rolled around, I was ready. They thought they knew me, thought I'd just roll over and take it. But this time, I was the one with the upper hand. Halfway through the meal, I cleared my throat, leaned forward, and said, "So, I spoke to a lawyer." Instant silence. My dad's face went pale, and he dropped his fork. My mom gave a nervous laugh, but there was no hiding the worry in her eyes. "I found out that what you did, taking my college fund without my permission, is actually illegal. They call it financial misconduct. If you don't pay me back in full within a week, I'll be taking this to court." My voice was calm, steady, and I could see the shock settling in. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. They knew I was dead serious. My dad tried to keep his composure, but I could see the tension in his jaw. "Alex, let's not be rash. We're family. You don't want to ruin that over a misunderstanding." I met his gaze without blinking. "This isn't a misunderstanding. You took my future and spent it on a car. A car. So either I get my money back, or we take this to court." My mom finally spoke up, her voice soft and almost pleading. "Alex, honey, we didn't think you'd be so upset. We did it for the family, you know." I shook my head. "1 week. That's all I'm giving you." I stood up, my heart pounding, but my resolve as solid as ever. I knew they got the message. Once my parents realized I wasn't bluffing, they tried switching tactics. Suddenly, I was the ungrateful child who didn't appreciate all they'd sacrificed for me. The guilt trips? Oh, they came in full force. Mom hit me with, "Alex, we did everything for you. We raised you, gave you a good home, and now you're threatening us with lawyers? This is how you repay us?" Dad backed her up, shaking his head with that disappointed look, like I'd just shattered some family code. "We've done nothing but support you, and now you're throwing it all back in our faces?" I just stood there, arms crossed, watching them dig themselves deeper. The old me might have felt guilty, might have bought into their sob story. But now, I saw right through it. They weren't sorry for what they did. They were sorry they got caught. As days went on, word started spreading. Small town, you know. Neighbors began to whisper, shooting us curious glances. My parents, who'd always been the ones bragging about family values and how tight-knit we were, suddenly became the town gossip. That brand new car they'd been flaunting so proudly? Yeah, it became more of a scarlet letter than a status symbol. People knew. They might not have known every detail, but they knew enough to see through the facade. And every time I saw that car, sitting in our driveway, shiny and smug, I couldn't help but smile to myself. They'd turned my future into their personal trophy, and now it was coming back to haunt them. A week passed. I gave them their chance, but they didn't lift a finger. Not one apology, not one attempt to make things right. So I did exactly what I said I would. I filed a claim against my own parents. Yeah, it felt surreal, but after everything they'd done, I wasn't backing down. When the court date rolled around, my parents showed up, looking shaken. I think it finally hit them that this was real. In the courtroom, I laid everything out, every last detail, the funds they'd drained, the car they'd splurged on, and all the evidence I'd gathered. Watching them face the truth in front of a judge was a sight I'd never forget. They couldn't dodge it, couldn't twist it. The facts were staring them right in the face. The judge listened and in the end ruled in my favor. My parents were ordered to sell the car, put up their property as collateral, and cover not only my college expenses, but also damages for the emotional stress they'd put me through. That shiny car they'd been so proud of, gone. Their perfect family reputation, ruined. As I walked out of that courtroom, it hit me. I didn't need them. Not their guilt trips, not their fake family values, and definitely not their twisted version of support. From that day on, I was free. From their control, their expectations, all of it. They'd lost me the moment they chose their greed over my future, and for the first time, I felt like my life was truly my own.